Thank you for your patience. This is a bright light, by the way. So without much further ado, my name is Joachim de Koning from the project Internet of Coins. My co-founder is Robert de Groot. And together we've been working for 2 years on a system to create inter-blockchain transactions, but also we want to create a system for personal crypto finance. So that's the goal we have in mind with this. I've worked previously in a project called RetroShare, was on the distribution team, and have been hacking away at the modules. And if you've been on RetroShare yourself, it's an extremely decentralized friend-to-friend network. It's a lot of fun. There's no censorship, which means sometimes you have some crazy stuff going on in the forums, the decentralized forums, that is. But it's a fun project to look at. For the rest, I've been working on this little gadget thing in the past year, and it's called the Net Aid Kit. It's used by journalists like Free Press Unlimited, and they use it to connect to Tor and other networks all over the world from also dangerous countries. And that project is also being worked on by Radically Open Security, a very cool company that is working in Amsterdam. So I've had a lot of good experiences working with them, and that's why I want to mention them, because without having such experiences, I wouldn't be where I am today technically. And from 2012, Robert and I have also been running a company called Metasync, and we've been working on all kinds of blockchain-related things, creating anything from gateways to solutions, blockchain solutions for organizations that need it. But first, I want to talk about my favorite asset, because we're talking about, well, cryptocurrencies, blockchains, also blockchain assets. My favorite asset is chocolate, and I like it because it's very sweet. It's very good. I think why I want to start with chocolate is because there are a few attributes about chocolate that I'd like to link to crypto finance. Now you might be thinking, okay, how is he going to do that? Because that's a really strange tangent, and it is. So I'm going to get started. First of all, chocolate is a consumable. So it's like a food, you eat it, and it gives you energy. It's also a standard, at least that's what it's supposed to be. If you eat chocolate in China, you definitely, most likely, hope that it will taste somewhat the same as, for example, in Venezuela. And so we try to standardize the production of chocolate, how it tastes, what the experience of chocolate is. Also the ingredients. There's also something personal about chocolate, and that is, what do you like when you think about chocolate? Do you think about white chocolate? Some people say, like, no, that's not chocolate. That's just, you know, cacao butter and some other stuff mixed in it. Or do you think about dark chocolate, you know, pure and best? Personally, I like dark chocolate a lot. Some people say, no, I don't like that. It's way too bitter. Give me milk chocolate. So it's something personal. And then you also see in chocolate a symbol, at least I see it, which is, if you can eat chocolate, it's very likely that you're wealthy. You're in a more wealthy part of the world than other people that do not have access to this special luxury food. And for the rest, I think also chocolate can be a symbol of freedom, or a reverse of it, slavery. If you can consume it, it's personally, I think, a symbol of freedom for you. Or if you're part of a fair trade program, for example, you can produce chocolate which makes your livelihood better, then it, at that moment, is a symbol of freedom for you. Okay, so personal finance. First, I found this word cloud on a website, and it's a website that helps people with their personal finances. There's a lot of websites like that, so I just took a random website, pulled the word cloud off. I didn't put any copyright-like information on here, so don't hit me for that. But the word cloud was interesting to me because it has a few interesting words that people associate with personal finance. And very big words there are, for example, bank, but also money, people, life, better, make. And so when people think about personal finance, one of the first things they think about is bank. Now, a lot of people that I talk to, I believe, do have this same association. They think about cash in their wallet, or they think about the money that they have on the bank. Personally, I think about blockchain technology, because for me, that is finance. And the money I have on my bank doesn't interest me that much. It interests me more how many Bitcoins I have, or how many Moneros, or other cryptocurrencies that I think are interesting. Everybody has their personal favorites. And so if you're a crypto enthusiast, it's likely that when you're thinking about finance, you're not just thinking about what's on your bank, but you're thinking about what's in my cryptocurrency reserves. So, but here I want to make the comparison to chocolate, because personal finance can also be a symbol for us. Of course, you denote finances in symbols. You could say, like, okay, the British pound, GBP, a US dollar, USD. But that's not really the symbol I'm trying to talk about. I think the symbol I think is important here is, for example, token denotation. Is it positive or negative for you, finance? I think for many of us, it's also something positive. Otherwise, we would not be here. Is it capitalism in your mind, or communism, or maybe some other feudal type system that you've encountered? I think for us here, a lot of it is capitalism, because we're used to that kind of way of thinking. We're taught that mode. I'm not saying that's necessarily the right way to think about it or the wrong way, but I think a lot of us philosophically will have that bent. But it also has something to do with freedom. So if you have personal control over your finance, that gives you personal freedom, at least in the system we live in, to do a lot more when you have control over your finance. When if it's out of control, then at that moment your freedom becomes less. For us, I think it's also important that finance means blockchain, at least for me. I think those things for me are inextricably linked. But in finance, we're also looking at what are standards. So if we want to pay someone on the other end of the world, if there are no standards to do that properly, and right now a lot of these standards have been set by banks or consortiums that are trying to work together to, cobble something together. But if these standards don't exist, it's going to be very unlikely that your money arrives at all. And also finance is personal. So not everybody in the Netherlands, for example, wants to divulge how much they have on their bank account, or maybe not even how much they have on their crypto account. That's logical, perhaps, because you might feel vulnerable doing so. But in different cultures, that is different. Well, I want to take a little look at what my opinion is of the current state of blockchain technology. And this is a system from the late 1970s, beginning 1980s. It's a computer system. And in those days, if you wanted to use a computer, you'd have to go to a university if they'd have an experimental computer system there. Or maybe, if you were lucky, you had a very big library that was having one on display that you could actually put your punch cards into. You'd have to go somewhere to use that computer, and you'd have to have access to it. And in not all cases, it would be easy, or sometimes you'd have to travel pretty far to just put your punch card into that computer. Right now, for general users, like for us, I think a lot of us know how to use an app to use crypto. And so for us, it's reasonably close. But when I talk to a lot of people about cryptocurrencies, a lot of people that I meet, they're like, well, I don't dare to try anything with it because I wouldn't know how to do it. And then when I say, yeah, but there's really easy apps, you can just try it out and just do the thing. Well, then they're still a little bit careful. They're precarious about this, because for them, the whole idea of blockchain, of cryptocurrency is still a difficult to understand system. And it's not close enough to them, to their personal lives, to their way of thinking about what finance is, that they want to use it. So right now, it's still a very attractive thing for people that actually have access to this, what I would say, punch card mentality, that dare to do that experiment. And I think a lot of us here dare to do it. But my grandmother, for example, definitely wouldn't. Well, as a lot of projects in the blockchain space are doing, is they're trying to create a way to bring the crypto technology closer to everybody. At least that's what I hope they're trying to do. because that's what our focus is. What we want to do with the Internet of Coins is not just create a snazzy way to make inter-blockchain finance possible, but we also want to bring it close to the user. We want to make finance personal, and we want to make crypto finance personal. So this is one of the first computers, and this one was made by Jobs, but it could have just as well taken an IBM one showing DOS, because what Gates, for example, was doing there was trying to bring the operating system into the personal sphere. But the message I want to bring with the picture is, if we can bring blockchain finance into the personal sphere, I think then we will have a win with people who currently don't dare to use it. So for us, at Internet of Coins, in the past few years, we've gone from a technical point of view where we're trying to just make things work to also a more personal point of view. Because right now we're testing the alpha wallet of Internet of Coins with a test group in the Netherlands. They are eco-villages that want to use no banks. They want to try and use only their own crypto tokens, the ones of their choice, to try and pay each other to create a decentralized economy. And I think that's a very daring initiative. I don't know if they're going to succeed, but I think it's really cool. And so we're helping them to learn about these blockchain technologies. We're also creating the alpha wallet for them and polishing it based on their feedback, so that they can use all these cryptocurrencies in one place and not have to muddle and fiddle with all these different apps, so that every one of them can easily be involved. So our question we're continuously asking is, how is blockchain finance going to change our personal lives? And that's the approach we have in building it. So of course, these are basically givens, but the Holy Trinity in this case is very important of usability. And one of the things is that it has to be really simple to use, the system that we're building. It shouldn't be that they have to be hunting for buttons and trying to decode weird symbols that they don't understand. The wallet application should be very transparent to the user. But also we want to operate cross-platform. So for example, if somebody wants to use a browser to access, in this case, blockchain technology, they should be able to do so. If somebody wants more security and wants to run their own node, they should also be able to use so. To do so. And for that we need cross-platform interoperability, because not everybody like me uses Linux. Some people think that, you know, that Mac is better for them, or Windows. So we want to make sure it works across all these platforms, including, of course, the mobile platforms. And finally, it must be secure and safe. And I think all of us in the blockchain space are working on this, because we're talking about value, whether it's denoted in euros or dollars or in cryptocurrencies. So I want to go to a little hypothesis, real world, real simple. Let's say I want to tell my grandmother about Namecoin. And she says, oh, Namecoin, that's really cool. I'd like to use it because, you know, if there's some kind of weird free internet that I can type .bit domains, hey, that sounds kind of nice. Yeah, I'll do it. But if she has to download Namecoin and she's going to try and download that whole blockchain, I think grandmother will have lost her interest by then. Besides the Qt app for Namecoin, it's a well-done Qt app, but it definitely doesn't fit the expectations of my grandmother. So, but you could say, well, grandmother might be too old for Namecoin. You know, I don't say that that's the case. My grandmother's pretty flexible, but you might say, well, Namecoin, come on, really? Okay, we could go a bit closer to home. Grandmother has a lot more experience with stocks. So let's say grandmother said in the 60s, I want to buy a few hundred shares of Nuka-Cola. And at that time, it was a very small company just bottling cola in their shed or whatever. And now, many years later, she wants to convert these stocks of Nuka-Cola into other types of stocks, in this case, the eco-products. Well, for grandmother, this means she has to sell her stocks first. So she has to go to some kind of stockbroker, sell it, put it into dollars, have them deposited on her bank account, and then make sure that that is reconverted back into the eco-products stock. But what if this could be a lot easier? What if you could just transfer the Nuka-Cola stock directly into the eco-products stock? And that is the kind of thing we want to make possible with Internet of Coins. In first instance, using mostly blockchain technology and also old world alternative economies that are doing something with digital stuff like LETS systems. But later, we hope it will also be accepted for more common vehicles of value like stocks. So this is a very simple overview that shows what we want to do. We want to create something that in the experience of the user is like a decentralized financial web. And for the experience of the user, three things are very important, which is interoperability, a good user experience, and of course, security. And a lot of these users will most likely be using a browser. They don't want to download the whole node, so they would just want to simply go to the browser and type in a node address or another address that they simply understand, and then log into their wallet. Now for us, at least for me as the bit more geeky type person, I'm thinking on the security side about, okay, how am I going to make sure that when they log in, that they are not sending their keys over the web or whatever. So for that, we've focused heavily on, of course, deterministic transactions and deterministic cryptography. And we want to make sure also that if everybody's going to go browser-based anyway, you know, what are the supports going to be for future crypto networks? So we're working right now on technology to make sure that the browser becomes a node itself at that moment, and that it starts not just sharing data, but it also starts crunching numbers for inter-blockchain transactions. For that, we've created a node system called Hybrid D, and it runs either in a browser, or it can also just run on a bare metal system, like down on the operating system level. And it has several mechanisms inside of it. Of course, one for consensus. It has a node system that contains a processor, a scheduler, and a multiplexer for dividing transactions into swarm transactions. And it has modules, so you can tie it into other techniques. For example, interesting techniques like we saw tonight, Cosmos and Interledger, because the approach we have may not necessarily be the best approach. And I think a lot of these initiatives that are happening right now are very interesting. So I am also reading through the papers like Polkadot, like Interledger, and have been doing so for the past 2 years. There's a lot of other great projects out there, and I think if we find ways to hook them up, that will be able to expand this market and make it bigger. So on the base of this system is something that we call a transactional operating system, a TOS. And what it does is it arranges inter-blockchain communications and also has a temporary immutability storage system, which means that it can run on lighter systems than, for example, desktop computers or big mainframe type systems or clouds. Because as we go on, the blockchains that we're using are becoming bigger and bigger. And so whether we like that or not, there is some type of centralization currently going on in the blockchain scene, even though that was not the idea from the onset. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to mean that everything's going to be doomed. It's just a ticking time clock, and it will take time to also solve the problems towards decentralizing that again, which I certainly hope for also bigger, like the biggest chains like Bitcoin and Ethereum will happen soon. So we have something on top of this transactional operating system that we're testing and that we're also doing our current fundraiser for. It's called a hybrid asset. And a hybrid asset is a token that is not running on its own blockchain, like many tokens are. It's actually running on other blockchains that are already existing. And it does it runs on those blockchains simultaneously. And why? Not just because it's a cool experiment. I like it personally because of its experiment thing. But why we want to do this is if you can run a token on multiple blockchains simultaneously, it also diversifies the risk for if one of these blockchains gets into trouble, as we've seen happening sometimes with Bitcoin, as we've seen happening sometimes with Ethereum. Now, a lot of these problems are quickly fixed, but it has sometimes had an influence on the price. So if we can diversify the risk by running it on multiple blockchains while not being dependent on any single one of them at a time. I think it also will diversify the financial risk.
It's a great product. What you just described is a great product.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And what we have here is multiple chains. So the first ones you saw are Counterparty and NXT. So we have a hybrid asset running on that. It also runs on BitShares, it also runs on NEM, it also runs on Waves, and it also runs on the Bitcoin blockchain via Omni, although technically you could say Counterparty also runs on the Bitcoin blockchain, and it does. And it runs on the Ethereum chain. And so gluing it on top of that is the Internet of Coins weave chain system, and it weaves together these blockchains to run the hybrid asset on top of it agnostically. And so we hope that, well, first of all, we hope that's going to work because it's like Bitcoin, an experiment. But we think it will because we've already done a test with 2 chains 1.5 years ago. And that was the Counterparty and the next chain. And that hybrid asset held up for about 5 months before it was overthrown by big problems in the exchange world at the time. At the time, we didn't have it completely decentralized, so our testing was going on real exchanges. Right now, this hybrid asset will run on only the DEXs, the decentralized exchanges. If centralized exchanges want to trade it, well, that's great, but we're going to be focusing on the DEXs because we want to make sure that exchanges cannot become a part of the problem next time. So, well, I hope you'll be interested to just take a look at that. And right now it might be nice to show a little bit of how far we are. So let me just get a terminal out. Let's see. Let me just drag that thing here. Okay, well, maybe I should start with the back end first. I think that's a better idea. Okay, so here you can see, actually I'll pick up another terminal first. Here's the hybrid D system running. Basically, it's the transactional operating system that takes commands. It's very Unix-like. With us all on the team, we are very enthusiastic about the POSIX standards, how Unix has been doing things for many years. And it's, I personally believe, a long-term vision to doing things right. So what we've done is we've designed hybrid D and the transactional operating system to be POSIX-like. So you give it commands that adhere to standards that can pipe tools together like in Unix. And if this is getting too technical, then don't hesitate to ask a lot of questions because I think with these questions I can also try to bring it closer to well, to understandability. So it's running in the background the TOS, and it's called Hybrid D. It's connected right now to Lisk, and so, for example, if I've already put some commands in, but let's say you say, well, we want to see the status of the Lisk chain. All you do is hybrid D asset Lisk status, and this is, of course, also REST API. This is basically a REST API that I'm now calling from the command line, but you can do the same from your browser. Front ends can simply tie into it and do the same thing as well. For every ledger system or cryptocurrency or whatever, we are creating a standard approach to be able to pull data from it or push data into it. We're also looking at other approaches like interledgers. How are they doing it? We want to learn from each other because they might have a much better standardization in some aspects. And then we want to just not reinvent the wheel, but incorporate that into the way we're working. 1, it saves us work. 2, it will make both projects better, because we can also give back feedback to those projects about how we're doing stuff. So you can basically move around cryptocurrencies in the system at the moment. They can be at the moment parked for an atomic transaction. And we're making it possible to be able to choose between different types of cross-blockchain transactions. So not just atomics, because then you'll have to have compatible blockchains, but also, for example, a swarm method that we're developing ourselves, so you can transact between two completely different blockchain type systems, or even between a blockchain ledger and a non-blockchain ledger, which is, for that you need a more abstract model. If projects like Interledger or Cosmos beat us to the chase, we kind of would applaud that, because then we'll use their method. It brings us all further faster, and I also think that if it's a tested and tried method, then why reinvent the wheel? So let me get the front end out. Yeah, so right now you can see this is basically a mock-up for this is the alpha UI that now the alpha group is using. So for example, I don't know if anybody has a Lisk wallet here. Nobody? Well, otherwise I would have given you some Lisks. But for now you can, let me get the mouse back. You can basically go to look at your assets. At the moment, I've only hooked in 3 recipes. We call them recipes. There are other projects that have other names for things. They're basically semantics. We call them recipes. What you do is you put a recipe into the Internet of Coins node that you run, and then you can choose which blockchains you want to support. And at that moment, they also become available as wallets with all their functions, and in that way, you can use them. So you can see here, for example, that if you want to receive Lisks, well, you just say, okay, receive, and at that moment, it creates a deterministic address that you can publicly receive your Lisks. All of this is not happening, like I'm running the node on my computer, but let's say I access this website from one of your computers, then all the cryptography will be happening on your computer at that moment and not on mine. Why? Because if I'm a node operator, I'm not supposed to be able to look into other people's finances and transactions. All I'm supposed to do as a node operator is accept balls of cryptography, as I would say it, deterministic transactions, and just fire those into the right networks. So we want to make sure node operators don't have an incentive or any, how you call it, that they cannot be tempted to start, messing with transactions. So you can well, if you have Lisks, of course, you can also send them to us today, right here. But I can also send it to an external wallet. And let's say I want to send to them. Well, if anybody of you would have a Lisk wallet right now, I'd send it. But I can send it to my own wallet. Although, well, I'll just send it to the same wallet, and we'll see it disappear for a moment and reappear. As you can see, it's still a bit rudimentary, but we've been working a lot on the back-end stuff, and the front-end stuff is very, very young. So it's something that is not production ready, but we are far in the process of creating the transactional operating system, and we want to make sure that this stuff just works. We have groups that are actually now testing this and are going to be relying on it. So we have to make sure it works. Now, if we wait a while, the Lisks will come back via their own blockchain and be popped back into the wallet. I don't know how long that takes on Lisk. I suspect about 2 minutes. But this was kind of unexpectedly a demo, because I didn't quite feel sure about giving a demo today, but and the presentation of what Internet of Coins is. And any questions, fire away. So thank you for your attention, and well, thanks a lot.
So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions for this specific? Yeah, lots of questions. Yeah.
I have two actually. First, a very simple one. How do you make money? What's
For this project,
Yeah.
well, I make money personally with my company Metasync, but we've set up this project as a not-for-profit because we don't want this project to make money at its core. So what I do think is possible is later when the platform is ready that we create products on top of it. But we don't want the platform itself to actually make money because then we'll be working for financial incentives and not to create a system that we think is just really cool. I don't think financial incentives are necessarily wrong. It does make you work hard, but I don't want to get money involved in the mix personally in this project. And all of our team have decided let's make it a not-for-profit for that reason.
Okay. And second one is I really love the idea of hybrid coins, but I've thought about it, but I've never heard about it. Is that because I'm uninformed, or is this something you have created?
Yeah, a hybrid asset, as far as I know, has not been designed in the way we're doing it. So this is a new concept at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, just looking for clarification here. So hybrid assets, how does it work? So the hybrid asset, do you mirror transactions in both chains? For example, you had an asset on Next and Counterparty, I believe. Do you mirror transactions, or does the asset hop from one blockchain to another? So if it's destroyed on one side, then you create it on the other side. My next question would be, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question because, to be very frank, you cannot hop on the current blockchains that are there. You cannot hop an asset off and put it onto another one. That's not possible. So there are a lot of projects that are trying to take kind of approach on this by saying, okay, we'll park it on the one and then we'll kind of release it on the other. That's a possibility. I think that's actually a good idea to try out. But we want to create a system where you don't have to park or release, but users are going to be the market of the hybrid assets. So what we're doing is creating hybrid asset pools on all these chains that are connected by the market that the users are creating using the allocation system that we're building. And so in that way, you don't have to park the assets. They're not actually being moved, but they're being traded one-on-one. And that will only be, there will be no other fee than the network fee. So if a user wants to move their assets, they'll say, I want to do that. And the allocators will be the ones that are they're basically like, we got the question in the forum, like, can you mine on Internet of Coins? And I was like, well, no, but you can allocate. And by allocating, you're making pools of liquidity available. And at that moment, that gives you an incentive. So you get a very small part of the fee. You're basically getting a very small part of the network fee for doing that. And so users are allocating, which makes the hybrid assets movable.
I still don't quite understand how allocating works. But then my second question is, how does the hybrid asset get value? For example, in Cosmos, the atoms will get value because you'll earn dividends or transaction fees. How does the hybrid asset get value?
A hybrid asset doesn't necessarily pay dividends. So it's just like a cryptocurrency. It's a token system, and the value that it's given is also dependent on the users. But we do want to give the hybrid assets value in its new usage modus. So let's say Bitcoin had created its market basically also on the fact that it did something completely new, added to that there's scarcity, added to that it costs energy. Well, with the hybrid asset token, you're basically also using something that is completely novel. And so for us, yeah, it is going to be experimental because we don't know how users are going to value it, but users are going to value it. And during the fundraiser, we are going to set a price on each token. But if that price remains, that is something that remains to be seen, because the users get to decide if we are worth that much, or if they think, no, this is not worth this amount. So for that reason also, during our fundraiser, we're making sure that this project does not become overvalued. And we want to make sure that we start with humble beginnings and that we take it from there and then see what users think about this hybrid asset. Does that answer your question?
It looks really risky because I mean, what keeps a competitor from creating the same thing?
Actually, in the future, competitors will be able to do so. So we're going to build the system in such a way that we are not going to be a centralized force of power. But what we are also anticipating is that in the Internet of Coins, it's possible to be able to rate a hybrid asset based on its liquidity, its usability for exchanging value between the chains. And if an organization or users don't properly arrange their hybrid assets and give a real use case to it, a real value case, then their value will go down or will be less traded or used. The same counts for cryptocurrencies. So we're a system that wants to be open for all cryptocurrencies to just put in their recipe and participate. But as we all know, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are scam coins. And so how do you filter that out? It's just like on the internet. How do you filter out websites that are just set up to either rip people off or put the most nasty stuff out there that you can think of? Well, there's really no way to do that on the internet except make sure that people get to know which websites they shouldn't visit. And so the Internet of Coins, we don't want to be like a moral police and say, well, these coins are good, these coins are bad. It's not up to us to decide that. So it's going to be an open playing field. And yes, that's risky. And so yeah, it's definitely, for us, it feels risky as well. But we are open and transparent about that fact. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, just starting from the top to the bottom, thank you very much for your presentation. Wow, mind-blowing. I have to research everything again and again before I really know this shit. But really cool, first hybrid solution, I believe. One remark I want to give you is I really like the idea that you put the power to the people first. Also because, well, as we both are geeks, most systems can be very complex, and most normal consumers, they don't want to deal with the complexity of it.
Yeah.
So, good job. Thank you. Let's give him another applause, round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks.